Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mary Greening, and I am with the Temenos Developer Community Basecamp. And today we are welcoming David Aguirre and Ben Basuba from the Business Solution Group, and David is with the Workbench Product Management Group. Couple housekeeping things before we get started. You are on mute. If you have any questions, please ask them in the Q&A panel, not in the chat. We're going to have a great session today on Workbench, and we are recording after the webinar is over. As soon as we get the recording, we'll be posting it in the webinar page that you saw to register for this event. We also have FAQ on Temenos Basecamp for any FAQ questions on the Workbench webinar. And we're just going to get started. I'm handing it over to David right now.
Thank you, Mary. Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. Do you see my screen, Mary?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be in this session and to present you the first milestone of our new product, Temenos Workbench. So let's have a look at the agenda. So we will first explain why we created the Temenos Workbench, what were the requirements for it, and the key concept we used to meet those requirements. Then most of the session will be a live demo of Temenos Workbench, where we will showcase end-to-end change the bank standard scenario. So from configuration to packaging and deployment of the changes through a simple continuous integration pipeline. Then I will run you through the high-level roadmap so that you see what will be upcoming in the next months, and also the release compatibility of this new offering. And after, we will have a conclusion and a Q&A, as Mary pointed out. So, why Temenos Workbench? So, our main goal, as ever, is to provide you with modern tooling that enables high productivity to configure, transact, all the way from configuration development till automation of deployments through DevOps principles and tools. So really the main goal is the productivity and the ease of use. So that's our two main drivers to build a new tool that fits all the modern technology requirements. So the requirements, if we go a bit in more depth, so the requirements of modern tooling are, the tooling, first of all, must be easy to install, easy to use, and it also must be fun. It must not require the need to be a technical expert to do most of the use cases. So, because this is a tool you will use on a daily basis, so the productivity is really important. And it must as well enable seamless packaging and promotion of your configuration changes. We want to make that very easy as well. And something also very new, we will have some wizards, and the goal of those wizards is to accelerate the frequent configuration use cases. And you will see one sample of this pattern in the demo. And we will also need to provide a consistent user experience with the same look and feel, same UX patterns across our tooling. So something we didn't always have. And last but not least, this tooling must be very fast. We don't want the users to have to wait and lose context on what they are doing. We want the system to react very quickly. So this ultimately will result in better quality, lower total cost of ownership. So in short, we need the best tooling to boost your productivity. Let me hand over to Ben right now.
Thank you, David. Thank you for listing the requirement. So what is the answer of Temenos in that regard to answer all of these requirements? And our solution is a Temenos Workbench. So the Temenos Workbench, it's mainly used by the Change the Bank team. the team that is responsible to enhance the product and the banking software. It is a web-based app, and it can run in the cloud or on-premise. And now, two other key important points. First one, the Temenos Workbench include a full end-to-end change management. Packaged are integrated. So what does it mean? What does it mean packaged are integrated? It means that we can configure package with ease and deploy them to other environments. So as soon as we do some changes, some addition in terms of artifacts, we can include them on a package, and this package can be deployed to other environments, from dev to user acceptance test, system integration test, and ultimately to production. So that's the first point, end-to-end change management. Second key point is that ultimately, we would like to use Temenos Workbench as one configuration tool for all the Temenos product. But today, it covers Transact to begin with. So let's go now to the demo side. Just before, we would like to summarize what we will show you. So the first demo use case is about adding a new field to APIs. So we will here extend the data model by first creating a package. Then we will create a new field. Then we will add this new field on APIs, two kinds of APIs, a post to update, and here we will use a payment example to operate a payment, and a get to have a list of payment. Then we will download the Swagger definition of the API, and David will show you how we can access it, and test it. So let's move now to the system. Here we are. So David, can you see?
Yes.
Screen? Okay,
yes,
perfect.
we can see Workbench.
So here is a Workbench credential first. We need to input our credential. And then you see the Temenos Workbench. And the first part that we see is a dashboard, where we have a card for each of the product. So for example, Temenos Transact, operational data store, analytics, data lakes, and so on. Again, today, what we are covering, and to start with, is Transact. And from here, we can, for example, go to the command line and go directly to create a new query, a new field from here. But also, from one click, we can select here, for example, new inquiry, and we go directly to the wizard that allow me to create a new query based on Transact. But what I will do first, to follow the demo one scenario, is to extend the data model. So I will go to local field, and I will say add new. But before, we need to remember that the Temenos Workbench is also including the end-to-end change management. So before creating a new field, I should not forget to create a new package. And here, I can create now a new package. I will call it payments data, and I will save it. Okay, so now if I can come back on the top here, I can click refresh, and I see here indeed my payments data. And that is very important. Having that payments data package name on the top means that any kind of artifact I will create or modify will be included in that package as soon as I click add to package. So what do I see here? I see here the graphical view to extend the data model by adding a new local field on Transact. So for example, I will create a new field called source funds. And then I have the ability to select what kind of type is that new field. the minimum character and the maximum. Here I will put 20, for example. Is that an editable field? Yes. And a short description. So for example, source of funds. Now, I created the field, but I need to say on which application this field will be added. So here I have a dynamic view of all the Transact application coming, and I can select payment order. I can click plus here because I have the ability also to add that new field to more than one Transact application. But if I'm happy like this, I click create. And that's it in terms of rebuilding the data dictionary. So in few seconds, we are rebuilding the data dictionary and the field now has been created. But that's not enough because as soon as I create a new field, I need to add to the package. That's what I will do by clicking here. Now, a major difference with before, and what we do think is an important capability to improve efficiency and productivity, is the next section you see here, the what's next. The Workbench has the ability to understand the kind of configuration I'm doing and propose some next operation. And that's quite useful because now I would like to add that new field in a business logic screen. That's what we call version on our vocabulary. So I can click immediately here, go, and I have a list of API already existing about payment order. So what I would like to do, I would like to add my new field in that payment order API to create a SEPA instant payment, and then I just click here. So by understanding the context, the system will already tell me, yes, we understand you created a source funds new field that you can add in that specific payment order API. So that's what I will do. I will click here plus, and now if I go to the last page, I see indeed my source funds field that I added on my API business logic for payment order. Again, I can do save, and I can click add to package. That's how we can add a new field on an existing API for payment order. So that's the post. Now, we would like also to add that new field on a get API. So for that, I can come back here because we keep the context. And here you see we have that mechanism of tab. We can work on different kind of activities. Because we have that mechanism of context, I can now go to the what's next and say, this time I will add that API to a query for the get. Same concept. The system is proposing me a list of already defined API about payment order. And here you see get payment order. That's the one I would like to add my new field on. So here, that's the API for the get with a list of selection, list of field. Again, the system understands the context. I just created a new field. So I can, again, here click plus. And now I added my new field on my API query. Again, I click save and add to package. So now I let David show you how we can download the Swagger definition and access that API via Postman.
Thank you, Ben. So let me share my screen. So this, what we are showing here, is also kind of a collaboration capability you have. So Ben has started a journey, and I will actually do the testing of what he has been doing. So Ben told us that he has updated the payment order. So I can go to payment order. Which one was it? SEPA instant payment. And now what we will do, so this is the Transact artifact that responds to the post, the create payment, create SEPA instant payment request. But now I would like to test it with an API tool. So for that, we first need to download the updated Swagger because we have the new field source of funds. So we'll click here, and here maybe some people recognize the API Workbench. So when you create an API the first time with the API framework, you need to define the endpoints, and for each endpoint, you will map it to a Transact version or an inquiry. So here I haven't changed the endpoint, so I'm just reading the original endpoints definition. I will now generate the new Swagger API definition. So Swagger is the industry standard to define the contract of an API. So as you can see, in a few clicks, I can download it. My Windows. Let me download it again. Here it is. I will unzip it. So what I have inside is just the Swagger, new Swagger definition. And you could test your API just with the Swagger definition with a different set of tools. The one we'll use is Postman, which is a free tool, very popular. So we'll just drag and drop this file. And in 2 clicks, I have my API here, auto payment, which has 2 endpoints. And so the goal is to test them. So I will test the create SEPA instant made. So this has been really loaded out of the Swagger API definition. The test I want to do is to do a payment between 2 accounts, and I don't want to validate. I would really like to do the payment. And we are in a dev environment, so I don't need all the, say, security stuff. And the body has been based out of the Swagger document. So I want to test some basic feature of the API. So for that, I will keep only the body and not all the attributes, only the ones I will use to do my transfer. So the debit account, the currency, the amount, the beneficiary. And here we see the new field that has been added. Okay, so I took a copy of the debit account, test account I have on our system. Then I will do a payment in USD. I will say $3,000. Then the beneficiary. So Postman is not aware, obviously, of the test data that we have. But what we bring in is really the data model of the API, the definition. And source of funds, I will say cash. And just to prove, you see, for me, it's 1520 Central European time. I will say I will put a dummy number. And now I will create my payment. So if all goes well, I will have a payment ID. Here it is. Okay, and we see that the API returns as well a few other fields and the source of funds. So the payment ID is this one, the payment I just made. So now we'll test the other side, the get. And here, so it has query parameters. I'm removing the pagination because it's just going to be one record in this case. I give the same ID as it was generated, my new payment. And then on the headers, I will also remove, because I'm in a test environment, anything that is too complex. And here we can see the system has found my new payment of 3,000. Okay. And we should see the source of fund with what I have put. So now I could say to Ben, okay, it's what has been developed is working. So now we'll switch to the slides. So that's what I did. I tested. We do development, we test it, and once what we are happy, what do we do usually? We'd like to add it to a source control. And what we are going to add to the source control is the package that that has been used as the context, like Ben has been showing. So we'll add that package to source control. And then I will enhance the API because I want to control a bit better the create payment with some logic. So Transact, you can extend Transact with Java. We have extension points, and I will show one of them to do a validation logic. And then we'll redo all of the packaging. and because I will have added a validation logic, I will have to link it to the API, and then I will test it again. Okay, so let's do that. I will go to the Workbench. So here I will select the package Ben was working, payments data. Oh, sorry, I need to go here. So this is showing, by the way, the Temenos packager. We'll shortly discuss about it, which is fully integrated in the Workbench. So I see the records that Ben has been changing. So he has added a field, source of funds to Transact, and then assign it to the Transact application payment order and added that field to a version and inquiry. Okay, so I'm happy with it. Quick review. I will download the package. So here is my package. Just download it now. And now, in order to add it to source control, our strategy is that an ID could be one way to do it. So here I have a project in Eclipse, a workspace, and I will add the package. So this package is just a zip, this one. Okay, payments data 1.0.0. And I will add it as a project within my workspace. So now I have this that is in my area, and I have connected it to source control. Okay, so immediately it detects all the changes. Maybe let's have a quick look what is the inside of this project. So we can see 4 fields. As you can see, we have a prefix T24 data because in future we will support other products. You will see in the roadmap. And if I open one of them, something to notice as well, it's JSON files. All configuration records will be JSON files. And JSON is great because it's an industry standard, and we want to have readability of what we put in source control, because readability will enable collaboration, will enable tracking your changes through the history. Let's say you would change the description later, then you can see that. And if there are sometimes multiple development teams working on the same area, you can manage the conflict resolution with the tooling. So, okay, now I'm happy with all of that. The package looks good to me. I will put a comment to put it in source control. A good practice is to use a ticketing system like a Jira. Add package payments data. Okay, so now I really already have my package in my source control. What I wanted quickly to show you, I already have prepared a simple jar which has a payment order validate extension for Transact. So this class, Java class, will just do a very basic check that if the payment is in USD, it shouldn't exceed 1,000, okay? And Java is a standard, obviously, language in the industry, so it's going to be very easy for a lot of developers. So I'm happy with that, but now I would like to use that in my API. So I will switch to the Workbench, which is our configuration tool. And I was with API with version. So you still see I have the context. Oops. Sorry, I think. API with version, payment order. And SEPA instant payment, here it is. Okay, and here you see that we can put input validation. So the Java class I've created earlier, I have already prepared my Transact environment with it, and you just need to create a record called EB API, which payment, sorry, what was it? I have a small problem. Payment order, validate. Here I should have had content assist. Apologize for that. I do a save. So now my API for the create payment has this logic. So when we do a change, we need to test it. So I can jump straight to Postman. And if I redo the same with 3000, it will fail because the amount has an error. It's more than 1000. If I put it less than 1000, the payment goes through. Okay. And now let's come back to the PowerPoint for the next step. So now we have done the change as well on adding a validation logic, but I haven't added that yet to the source control, this change of validation logic. So I will show how you can do it with our package synchronization tool, and then we'll add that to source control. And then we'll see how easy it is to add a build and deploy pattern for the packages we have just built. So this is the continuous integration step. If you want really advanced package validation promotion mechanism, advanced DevOps, we have an offering that you perhaps know, Temenos Continuous Deployment. You can do it on your own, but here it will facilitate you greatly the journey for DevOps. Okay, so now let's go back to Eclipse. So here it's my package. So I have added this payment order validate to a version, but it's not yet in source control. Okay, so here we have a package, tpackage.json, that you can open with what we call a web designer. And here you will have the exact same experience you had on the web. This is a web editor within Eclipse. Okay, and we see our files, which are the ones that are here. And here, a very important feature, we have a check synchronization capability from here. When I will click here, what it will do, it will compare what I have here on my file system connected to my source control with what I have in the target transact I've been connected to. So you can define the target transact in this DSF connection file. And here what you can see as a column, we see those three are okay. This one is not okay. There is a difference. So you could synchronize just that record. Synchronization means you could put the change that you have in your transact environment back to your source control, or the other way around, because maybe you have taken some stuff out of source control and you want to update your local environment. But in this case, we did the change through the Workbench, we changed transact. And you can do the synchronization at package level. As I just said, one way or the other. Product, in this case, it's transact. In future, we'll have other products to the workspace, to what I have here. So I will do the check synchronization. And now they are in line. Okay, so now I should see a difference in Git. Okay, and if I double click on here, that's the great advantage of having readable models. I can review. Okay, now what I have as a change that I haven't put in source control is the input routine payment order validate. So I'm happy with that. Again, I will put Jira added validation logic to create SEPA payment API. And I'm done. Okay. So from here, I would say the developer or the configurator will have done its job. And then we usually have integration team, DevOps type of profile, which would like to then build and deploy that package. So let me close all the editors. So what I have prepared in advance is very simple. A simple project, okay, which will manage the continuous integration. That's as simple as that if you do something simple. So the package, maybe you have noticed, we have a POM XML. POM XML is the manifest for Maven, Maven framework. So the Maven framework is one of the leading framework in the industry to build software. And here what we want, we will use Maven to build the data, but as well the code, okay, that we had. And if I have a look inside, my payments build so far had the payments code, but it didn't have the payments data that I just added. So within one line, I have my change immediately detected. So that's the first thing. And then the demo we'll do with, for continuous integration, we have selected Jenkins, which is again one of the leading open source continuous integration tool. And what I want to highlight is what are the steps you need to build and deploy. So the build is very simple. So I have defined two stages. One is to build my packages, and I'm using Maven to say payments build pom.xml, which is the one I just modified. So for Jenkins, it doesn't know to know at this stage that there are 1, 2, or 100 packages. You just manage that through Maven, okay? And then Jenkins will build all of them. Then as a demonstration, in the same pipeline, I have added a deployment of the data part of the package. What is you need to remember is that now to deploy a package, you don't need to put the package on the host machine. You can do it remotely. So on the target server, you will have an API which you will use to deploy. So remotely, through curl, for instance, you can deploy the package. Payments data will be the package that has been built dynamically by Maven, okay, based on what is in your source control. And here, those last few lines are just to check whether the deployment succeeded or not. Okay, so I have changed my payments build because I have added payment data. So again, I added payments data to build. Okay, very simple. So now I'm ready with Jenkins. As a side note, this Jenkins file highlights as well an important concept that you could leverage. The continuous integration toolchain is also managed in the source control. Okay, so if I switch now to Jenkins, so this is the pipeline I have created. So the pipeline will do the build and the deploy. Okay, the pipeline, if you ask how complex it is to set up, it's very simple. So what I'm saying is the orchestration of the build, the definition will be found from source control. I have selected Git as a source control management tool. For the demo, I have a local Git, which I've been using in my workspace. In your bank, you probably will have either a cloud provider like GitHub, Bitbucket, or GitLab, or any other source control, or on-premise source control Git server. And then I'm saying I get it, the definition of the build from Git. Here is my Git, and where do I find the Jenkins file? That's the file I've shown before, and it's in the payments build project. Okay, don't need to modify because this was already running. And now I can do a new build. So within a few seconds, this pipeline will take my latest changes out of the build. You have here a traceability of what we have changed. So the three highlights are the Jira comments I've added. You could go to the details page to see what has changed. For instance, in this one, I've added the validation logic, and you see that this is the file that has been modified. Okay. Now, as you can see, the build of the package was extremely fast. And the deployment as well. So this is also going in the pattern where we want to be as fast as possible to help you configure, but also to package. Okay, so now this is the end of the demo. Let me go back to the slide. So I was So here is a recap a bit of what we have done. So what you have to remember is the configuration, you will do it with Temenos Workbench. Okay, you can do all the configuration. You can also have the packaging embedded into it. So it's very easy to add while you are modifying your Transact to add your changes to the package. So that's what we did. So the Temenos Workbench has been connected to a development environment. Once Ben did all those changes, then I used Postman to validate that the changes were okay. Then we had we have downloaded the package that we have put it in source control. Okay. And then I have shown you as well the packager, which is embedded in the Workbench, but this is also a standalone product. And the packager offers a lot of features that we haven't covered here, but the goal is really to automate very complex deployment scenarios of Transact. And what we have seen as well, something really important that is new in the Temenos packager, it's the synchronization. So if you have defined a package here, which is in a package repository, and if you are modifying the data, like I did to add a validation logic to a routine, you can always synchronize and use the synchronization tool to synchronize one way or the other. So from the source control to your development environment or the other way around, okay? So we have seen as well that in the IDE, you will use it to do this complex package management or package synchronization, and more importantly, for the code, if you need to do advanced Transact extensions. And then we have seen how we have very easily been able to build a simple DevOps pipeline that builds and deploy. So usually those two steps are separated in different pipelines, but for the demo purpose, I made it as simple as possible. But the package that has been built, then you could deploy it in a consistent way through curl request, so through API calls remotely to your environments. If you need a complex or more advanced package promotion mechanism, because usually a package you will deploy it to a test environment and you will run a lot of tests, sometimes automated, sometimes some manual testing, then your package needs to be promoted. So you can manage that by yourself, but you can also use our offering Temenos continuous deployment. Okay. So what do we have coming? So for the Workbench, and again, this is a very high level roadmap, but in short, we want to provide more tools and wizards for Transact, but not only for Transact, with the aim to really focus on the productivity on the common use case, to guide the user with this what next pattern, so that the most common actions will be always supported in a few clicks. Then what we will add within the Workbench is also an improved, further improved packaging experience. So what we have seen today is already quite a big benefit, because you can select the package in the context you are working for all your change and add while you are doing the changes. But this is a manual process to add, so the user has to decide, I'm adding. So what we will do as an option is to also have automated packaging. So the concept, you will say, okay, now I'm going to do changes on Transact. My context is this package. Everything I will be doing from now, I want to add it to this package. That's what it will do. I also wanted to highlight that for the integration framework, what we have today in Design Studio will also be ported to the Workbench. So web-based with also usability improvements and productivity improvements. We have a lot more on the packager, but those are the highlights on the Workbench, sorry. For the packager, so one of the main things we are working on is to support other Temenos products, so not only Transact. And the aim is to have the exact same experience across Temenos products. So your software development lifecycle will be the same. Your continuous integration pipeline will be the same. Okay, and in future we will also support the ability to have that within one package you might have data that spans across 2 different Temenos products, typically for integration projects. Today I have shown an editor for the packager within Eclipse, but we would like to give you choice whether you want to use Eclipse or IntelliJ in the near future. And in future we will also support other IDEs. Okay, and on the packager, we also are working on a lot of smaller improvements to really focus on the ease of use and the automation of the deployment. So, releases. The Workbench is available, will be compatible from the R20 release of Transact. Okay, and it will be available in early October. The packager is already available as of today and supports releases down to R19 Transact. Okay, please note that the Temenos Workbench embeds the packager, but you can also use the packager as a standalone product. Okay, but you will get most of the benefits when you combine both. Okay, so conclusion. The key benefits for this solution is that in future, it's going to be a single entry point for your Temenos products configuration. It's going to be web-based. So it means you can manage your configuration from one place and connect to the server to configure. And our goal is really to accelerate the development, as I said, the productivity. We want to enable banks to choose the way they want to work in a modular way and having teams that are autonomous. And the way we will store our configuration through the new packager will enable that. The productivity, already said it, it's going to be a big change. You probably have noticed that we have done a lot in this demo and in a very short time frame. And we were actually explaining you what we were doing. If you would do it on a daily basis, you would even do it faster. So having a better productivity will enable you to deliver more and better content to the market and faster. The automated deployment, already said multiple times. We don't want you to build custom tools to do some packaging and deployment. We want to come with a standard future-proof. And future-proof is really important because, as I said, the Temenos projects will be in future configured through the Workbench and packaged through the Temenos packager. Okay, so I think we are at the end. So we will spend some time for the Q&A. We'll try to see if I can see the panel. I will stop sharing for a while. I apologize so that I can read the questions.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Ben. Yes, we have quite a few questions in here, so let's get started.
Yeah, so probably I will not answer to all of them because there are many. So I will take a few. The Temenos Workbench is for core banking from Christian Benitez. Yes, this is indeed for core banking, but as I said earlier, we will support other Temenos products. However, if you refer to Connie apps like the Quantum platform, that probably will come later, but our first focus is on other Temenos products. Is the Workbench user interface creating using Connie? Yes, we have used Quantum. We want to always leverage the good frameworks we have inside. So we built it with what we believe was the best. Shouldn't we be able to see the existing local fields? Yes, you should. You are, but I think on payment order, I didn't have yet a local field. So if I would have created a new local field that I wanted to see on an existing application, I would have seen that. Can we amend the existing version, which are basically core versions? I haven't shown in the demo, but we have a feature to actually upgrade or copy. So it's true that the recommendation is not to change a core version. You should always take a copy and then also have versionings. For the versioning, there was also a question, where is, for example, Git? So within Git, the package that we have added to Git has a file called tpackage.json that I have shown earlier. And within this package, you have a version. And obviously what we will need is every time you redeploy to production to increment that version. And we have a full process around that on the new packager, which I think will fully support the versioning, very advanced versioning concepts on the packagers. So one of the question, doesn't the Workbench integrated with source control? So for now, we want to give the choice to the customers that to go. Sorry, not to give the choice to have the access to source control through the ID. In future, this is something we will consider to support one of the leading source control providers. So. Do you have the ability to test the APIs in Workbench or only the configuration? I haven't shown the API Workbench, but in there, if you don't want to use Postman, you could also do the same test I've been running. I will take still a couple of them. Will you deliver Docker as Workbench as Docker image? Yes, the answer is yes. So as Ben said, we will support cloud deployments, and the cloud deployments will be through Docker. But if you want to also run Docker locally, you will be able to. Is it possible to package beacons using the Workbench? No, the answer no. Is we really want now to leverage this new packager. So I would encourage you to contact Temenos for that. So the new packager offers a lot more features than beacons. It's much easier to use. It offers advanced automation use cases that Beacon or Design Studio were not supporting. Will the Workbench replace Design Studio eventually? The answer is yes. So as of today, we already cover a lot of features that are within Design Studio and in a better way through this seamless packaging and through this guided wizards. Obviously, we haven't replaced fully Design Studio right now. There is a FAQ where I have answered this particular question. Maybe a last one. What are the difference between existing ARIS API Workbench and new Workbench? Is it going to replace Design Studio? So what we will do in future, we will merge the API Workbench with the Workbench fully. As you have seen when I was doing the download Swagger, we have linked the two Workbench, but it's still a link. In future, we will have a native integration. Okay, so I think I will stop for now. And I will try to answer maybe those questions offline.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll take a copy of the Q&A transcript and we'll hand it over to David and Ben to fill out. We'll post it on the webinar page. I've put some links in the chat and you can check that out to see what our next event is. And if you enjoyed this content, please join us at Temenos Scale, which is our developer conference, which is free. That's coming up on November 18th and 19th. There's a link to that in the chat and also on the Basecamp homepage. Thank you again, David and Ben, for this great content. We hope everybody enjoyed it, and we'll see you at the next webinar, which is on October 6th. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.